Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
Tumba Jumden de Dejen Shekwa Ta Jumba Yangdaba Zobe Sanje Rikpa Dan Shamsu Demba Dewa Sheba Jikden Jemba Jebo Dube Kalo Jurwa Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Tumba Sanje Jumden de Bejawa Jaja Duba La Jazen Lo Jodo Jazo Je Dunpa Jumden de Jin Shekwa Ta Jumba Yangdaba Zobe Sanje Rikpa Dan Shamsu Tempa Dewa Sheba Jikden Jemba Jebo Dube Kalo Jurwa Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Dumpa Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Shaja Tuba La Chazel Chudu Jazo Je Dumpa Jumden de Dejen Shekwa Ta Jumba Yangdaba Zobe Sanje Rikpa Dan Shamsu Tempa Dewa Shekwa Jikden Jemba Jebo Dube Kalo Jurwa Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Dumpa Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Shaja Tuba La Chazelo Judo Jazo Je Sanje Judan Soje Chonama La Chanju Padu Tane Jazo Che Tage Chushe Jebe Sonama Je Drola Penche Sanje Drubara Sho Sanje Chudan Soje Chonama La Jiangzhou Bado Tane Jiaosu Che Dagi Shushe Jibe Sonama Je Drola Penche Sanje Drubara Sho Sanje Chudan Soje Chonama La Changzhou Bado Tane Jiaosu Che Dagi Shushe Jibe Sonama Je Drola Penche Sanje Drubara Sho. Good morning. Like the way we did last Sunday, let's spend maybe 2 minutes reflecting on what went well this morning or yesterday. So count our blessing. Focus on good things, what went well, things that went well. So let's count, go through each of them for maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Shall we? Okay. I hope you found lots of things that went well. And even a small thing as having a good shower is something to be appreciated. Over here, you can choose whether to have a cold shower, a warm shower, or a hot bath. But there are many places and many people who do not even have enough water to drink, not to mention about water for shower. Back in monastery, when we pass by those local Indian villages, we see them morning queuing for water at, I don't know, 1 or 2 taps. So they have a time. Morning, 1 hour or 2 hours. Evening, maybe another 1 hour or 2 hours. So if you are unable to fill your containers, too bad. That's same with the Tibetan settlement where I live. Not really exactly I live in the settlement, but the nearby settlement. They have hours. Morning 2 hours, evening 2 hours. But of course Tibetan people became clever. They made their own water tank and then they fill up the tank during that hour. But they don't have 24 hours of water coming. If they run or used up that tank of water, too bad. You have to wait for the next day. But over here, we hardly run out of water. And when we shower, how much water we waste. We let it run while we soap ourselves. And then when we take hot bath, how much water we waste. Then over here, I'm always a bit intrigued that on the one hand, everybody talks about global warming, climate change. We have to save our planet. But on the other hand, your bathroom have 5 or 6 huge bulbs, unnecessary usage. When I was in Atlanta, the apartment that I lived, the bathroom has, I think it's 5 of those huge bulbs. So I took down 3 of the bulbs. It was really unnecessary. And then when I moved into the apartment in Minneapolis, the same thing. And I tried to remove, but unfortunately, that one is a different kind of bulb, kind of a spotlight type. So I couldn't remove that. So now in this house, it also came with those 5 huge bulbs. So I have taken down, I think, 2 or 3. So we have that kind of luxury, while others have to rely on kerosene-lit lamp. And back in monastery, those hot months, the electricity will cut every 6 hours or something. They alternate. I don't know whether it is the same case nowadays, but during my time there, first of all, power goes off frequently, and during hot season, hot months, that's when we really need the power to run the fans. But they will alternate. Like 1 week, every morning from 6 to 12, the power will go off. And then next week, from 12 to 6, power will be cut off. But here, there will be a major protest, isn't it, if something like this happens. So what I'm trying to make here is that we need to really appreciate what we have. We take everything for granted. It's not the case. And recently, while cooking, that cleaver kind of rubbed my skin off, and it kind of a big kind of piece of skin came off. So I had to plaster it. When you plaster it, it still gets wet. Even when you do the washing or all this. So one time when showering, I wanted that to dry. So for showering, I used those plastic gloves. I didn't have surgical gloves, so I used the plastic glove, and then I tie with a rubber band so that water does not go. And then I realized that it is so difficult just to use this hand to shower. Even with this one, it doesn't feel natural. We don't think about it. We take everything for granted. Imagine those who are amputed. How much difficulty they have been going through every day, just doing a normal thing, very simple thing. So all this shows that we take everything for granted. We don't really appreciate what we have, how lucky and how fortunate we are. So it is good to spend at least 5 minutes just going through, just reflecting on the good fortune we have. That will make us more appreciative of the things we have. And then hopefully it will avert us, it will prevent us from focusing on what we lack, what we don't have. How often do we say that, oh, I am so lucky, I am so fortunate, I have this and that? Very rarely. Remember, one of the main causes of our problem, our suffering, is dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction arises from greed and lack of contentment. When we really think deeply, when we really kind of analyze our situation, we have everything. We are so lucky. No matter what the outside condition is. Inside is perfect. We can maintain that temperature, whether cold or hot. Remember, I mentioned this before. When we have days of sunny days, what do? We complain. And we say, oh, why is it every day so hot? We want rain, we need rain. But when it starts raining, what do we do again? We complain, we grumble. We wish for sunny day again. So these are the things that creates dissatisfaction, thereby giving rise to mental, or give rise to unhappiness. So that's why I thought it is important to spend some time. So now that we have gone through the list of things that we are grateful about, things that went well. So now kind of rejoice and appreciate. It could, I mean, you have counted, I assume that you have counted at least 3, 4, 5 things. But this could have gone wrong, but it didn't. So there is basis to be grateful. So whatever things that you find went well, just kind of generate appreciation and sense of gratitude for that. So now, coming back to our text. So last Sunday we covered the perfection of wisdom. So now we are on to the verse 26, which is about ethical discipline or ethical conduct. Tsutim mebar randun mitrup na shendun drubar döba kemune tejir sibar döba meba yi tsutim songwa kese laklin yins. Without ethics, you can't accomplish your own well-being. So wanting to accomplish others is laughable. Here it says, Timni gyuda miju sashindu yonden kunji shiden lakbar sums. So it's like the ethical discipline is like the foundation, is like the earth. On earth supports everything. Gyuda miju, those who walk like human beings, animals, insects, it all supports. And then miju means those inanimate objects, trees, houses, mountains, everything is supported by earth. So earth is like the foundation of all the things. So likewise, saying that Yunden Kunji Shiden Lagbar Songs. So it's the foundation of all good qualities. Even if you don't think from the spiritual aspects, from the Dharma aspects, just if you think about worldly things, if you are not ethical, there will be consequences. For stealing, for example, if you steal, there will be consequences. We will suffer. Killing, for instance, we will be jailed or even executed. And then, when we talk from the Dharma point, even in our this what do you call, in this life, the conventional things, the good life, good health, wealth, all this, mainly good health, the main cause for the human life is ethical conduct. Without that, even if we engage in the practice of generosity, which can result in a great wealth in the future, but without ethical discipline, we may be born in lower realms. We may not achieve human life or Deva's life. So there's no way to really enjoy that wealth. So that's why in Buddhism, the Nagas are said to be those who practice generosity but fail to practice ethical discipline. So that's why they are born as Naga. Nagas are known to be wealthy. They are known to possess all kinds of jewels, wish-fulfilling jewels. There are stories of what do you call, Nagas offering these jewels. So he said, without ethics, you can't accomplish your own well-being. So even if we don't talk about achieving liberation for ourselves, we still want to achieve a good rebirth. That can only happen when we observe ethical discipline, when we refrain from harming others. So that's what it means. Without ethics, you can't accomplish your own well-being. And it is really for us. We claim to be the Mahayana, we claim to be Mahayana practitioners. We claim to be working for the benefit of sentient beings. But do we really observe ethical discipline? Remember, ethical discipline is not about not doing that particular action. It has to be motivated by this intention to abstain from committing that particular action. For example, like the 10 non-virtue. We need to first generate that intention that I will refrain myself, I will abstain myself from committing these 10 non-virtue. Because ethical discipline is a mental thing. This intention, this motivation to abstain from harming others. We discussed this before. like trees, rocks. They do not engage in killing. They do not engage in stealing, sexual misconduct, nor the four verbal non-virtues. But we cannot say that trees and rocks practice ethical discipline. It's because that they don't have the intention. They are inanimate objects. So many of us, we do not engage in many of these non-virtue. From the 10 non-virtue, we do not engage. But because we fail to generate that intention, we do not get the merit. It's such a loss. It is not difficult to do. We can do that every morning. The first thing you wake up, before have your coffee, you can spend just even 1 minute is good enough. Just say today, just have this, generate this determination or pledge that today I will refrain from engaging in this and this and this and this. The best is if you can really abstain yourself from that, all the 10 non-virtue. And then, if you really follow through, then you get the benefit, you get the merit. Then you can say that I have practiced ethical discipline. So this is important. I have hammered on this point repeatedly because we forget. So wanting to accomplish others is laughable. So we are a laughing stock. So if we really are committed to benefiting other sentient beings, then first we must make sure that we observe ethical discipline so that we can continuously achieve good rebirth and then progress in the path to achieve enlightenment. Remember, our main primary goal is to benefit sentient beings, to liberate sentient beings from the ocean of suffering, to bring them to the state of enlightenment, to provide them the the permanent happiness. But in order to do that, we need to engage in the practices, and gradually we have to progress through the paths and grounds. And these are not something that we can achieve immediately. We need to build life after life. For that, we have to ensure that we achieve such rebirth so that we can continue in our spiritual journey. So that the only way we can ascertain is by practicing ethical discipline. When Chandrakriti made it very clear, there is no other causes and conditions that can assure the birth. The Ngunto is the birth of human, the human and devas, birth in human and deva realm. So very, resolute, definitive statement. Therefore, without worldly aspirations. So because this is a Bodhisattva practice, our intention should not be worldly. So if we practice for the sake of just achieving good rebirth, good future rebirth, that is not enough. And also if we practice ethical discipline out of worldly concerns for praise, or if I practice ethical discipline, people will praise me. People will say that, wow, he is a real practitioner. And also if I practice ethical discipline, I will be healthy. I will not experience sickness and poor health. These are all worldly. And even practicing with the intention to achieve nirvana, the self, liberation. So Bodhisattvas practice need to be free from, must be free from these worldly concerns. So what should be the motivation? So the motivation is to liberate sentient beings, to achieve enlightenment so that we can provide the lasting happiness to all sentient beings, so that we can bring all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. So that should be the motivation. So therefore, without worldly aspirations, safeguard your ethical discipline. So when we do that, then it becomes the practice of Bodhisattva. Just a recap. So ethical discipline, in Lamrim Chenpo it says, ethical discipline is an attitude of abstention that turns your mind away from harming others and from the sources of such harm. So there are two parts. Abstention that turns your mind away from harming. So the nature of ethical conduct is actually abstention of harming others. So when you go through the 10 non-virtue, for example, the main goal is to avoid harming others. Killing, it harms others. Stealing harms others. Sexual misconduct, it harms another person. Then the verbal one. High speech, definitely. Telling lies, then idle gossip, and then divisive speech. So here it says, abstention that turns your mind away from harming others, and the sources or the basis, like covetousness. Covetousness by itself may not be harmful to others, but it can be a basis, it can be a sources of harming others. So if you see a nice thing, then because of that covetousness, the intention to steal, intention to rob the other person may arise. Or you may do all kinds of things out of greed. So like covetousness by itself, it may not be harmful. But it can become, so we abstain from them as well, from it as well. And then, of course, we have the wrong view. Wrong view itself, or let me rephrase, wrong view not directly harms another person, but because of wrong view, you may engage in activities that can harm others. For instance, if you have a wrong view that making offerings of animals by killing animals is a virtue, then what will that person do? It will kill in the name of religious practice. So that's why there are two: mind away from harming others and from the sources of such harm. But all this boils down to the intention. Intention to abstain, the attitude to abstain from harming others. So remember, every day, every morning, remember to generate that intention. Then throughout the day, if you don't engage, end of the day, you have accumulated the merit of abstaining or of observing the ethical conduct. And the best is, of course, to become the Mahayana practice, to become the Bodhisattva practice. Do out of compassion for others, out of bodhicitta. Even if we cannot do that, at least generate that intention. Otherwise, it's a huge loss. If it takes too much effort and too much hard work, we can understand. It does not take much effort. It's just spending 5 minutes every morning. On top of it, if you are able to what do you call, look back, or what do you call it, at the end of the day, you just reflect. In the morning, I have pledged to do this. How have I done? And then if you find that despite your determination, despite your pledge and vow, if you have still committed or engaged in one of these non-virtue, then feel kind of a remorse and regret, and then make a stronger determination. Today, yes, I wasn't able to really abide by my promise, but tomorrow I will keep my promise. I will do better. That's how we progress. And then if you find that you have really followed through, rejoice. Remember, rejoicing doesn't necessarily have to be of others' merit. We can rejoice in our own merits. And rejoicing merit is the easiest way to cultivate merit. Remember, we talked about it. If the person is same level as as us, then we achieve. Then we get the same amount of merit. If the person we are rejoicing happen to be superior than us, at least we get 50% of that merit. And if the person is inferior to us in terms of Dhamma practice or realization, then we get double. That's like 200%, or I don't know how to call it, 200%. So that's the easiest Gela Yirang Chok to Song. So you see, if we do that, on the one hand, we are able to practice ethical discipline. On the other hand, we also cultivate more merits by rejoicing our merit, and feeling regretful and remorse of the negative action is also a virtue. So it's so easy to do. So why not? When we are always look out for easy way to make profit, this is the way. So now there are three types of ethical discipline. The ethical discipline of restraint, pratimoksha, the vow of individual liberation. So there are a set of particular vows, like bhikshu and bhikshuni vows. And then they also have, the vows you can divide into two, lay vows and ordination vows, ordained vows for monks and nuns. So lay, when it comes to lay vows, you can take those 5 lay vows, and 5 out of 5 you cannot do. You can choose which one you want to observe. So there are choices. And if you cannot do any of these pratimoksha vows, then at least minimum we must follow, or we must abide, or let's say we must observe the ethical discipline of 10 non-virtue. We must abstain from committing these 10 non-virtues. And then on top of that as a foundation, with that as a foundation, then we can practice, we can receive other vows like Bodhisattva vows, Tantric vows. So you see that even if we want to achieve enlightenment in a speedy way through the vehicle or a path of Tantra, we still need to take a Tantric vow. In order to take initiation, we need to take Tantric vow. So after taking Tantric vow, if we don't abide by it, it is very risky. It is very consequential. So we can see from this that how important the practice of ethical discipline is. So anyway, the second one is ethical discipline of gathering virtue. So in order to achieve enlightenment, we need to cultivate lots of virtue. We have to engage in all kinds of practices. So that is what is called the ethical discipline of gathering virtue. And then ethical discipline of acting for the welfare of living beings. So out of bodhicitta mind, we engage in actions that benefits other sentient beings, helping other sentient beings. So these are 3 types of ethical disciplines. It's just a revision. We have covered this before. So now, how to train in ethical disciplines? So this is actually of the downfalls, but I think we can apply this even in our abstaining from the 10 non-virtue. So there are 4 causes of transgression or downfalls. So the first one is not knowing. So first important thing is we need to know what to discard and what to adopt. In the case of 10 non-virtue, if we don't know what 10 non-virtues are, then there's no way we can abstain from the 10 non-virtue. So it is important to first understand the precepts. Not knowing can result into committing these non-virtue or transgressing the vows. So we need to understand if we want to observe the 10 non-virtue or restraining abstention from the 10 non-virtue, then we need to understand what 10 non-virtues are and what constitutes as committing that non-virtue. And then, not just that, because we have taken Bodhisattva vows, we have taken Tantra vows, we also need to understand all this. So Bodhisattva vows we have already covered, but we also need to understand, study and understand the Tantric vows if you have taken any highest yoga Tantra initiation. So the first important thing is to know what to cultivate and what to abandon. And then, even when we know, sometimes because of our carelessness, because of our recklessness, because of lack of conscientiousness, we engage in negative karma. In this case, 10 non-virtue. We know what 10 non-virtue are, but we are not careful. We are not conscientious. So, another way is to have that conscientiousness. So that will only arise, or let's say we can have a successful conscientiousness if we are able to utilize mindfulness and what is called introspective awareness. So mindfulness is remembering what you are supposed to do. In the case of 10 non-virtue, abstaining from 10 non-virtue, so always remembering that I have vowed not to engage in any of the 10 virtue, so I should not. And then this alertness, or what is called introspective awareness, is to always check, always keep an eye on your mind. In the morning, I have decided to do this. Am I doing or not? What is my mind thinking? What is my verbal action? What am I physically doing? So all the time watching yourself. And then on top of that, if you have this sense of shame and decency, remember, shame is about I am such and such, I should not do. You reason yourself, I am a Buddhist practitioner. I should not harm others. I should not engage in killing. I subscribe to karma. I should not steal others' property. I should not tell lies. I am an honest person. I am a principled person. I should not deceive others. And then decency is more like using other as a reason. If I do this, I will bring bad reputation to the Sangha community, to the Buddhist community. So that's using all these reasons, we stay away from negative actions. And then disrespect. When you have no respect to Buddha and Buddha's teaching, then we are more likely to kind of ignore the precepts. When we are able to develop a genuine respect and faith in Buddha, then we will start to trust Buddha's word. With that trust, we will follow Buddha's teaching. When somebody who is reliable, if that person says you shouldn't do this, you should do that, we normally follow that person. Whereas if we know that person to be a liar, a con man, we will not trust that person. We will not follow the instructions or the advice given by that person. Likewise, first we need to really develop this trust and conviction in Buddha, that Buddha is omniscient, and whatever Buddha says is true. And with that, we will be able to follow the teachings. So if we are able to follow teachings, there is only benefit, there is no loss. Buddha's advice and teaching is all about providing us or leading us eventually to the state of enlightenment. So it is important to cultivate that respect and trust. And then mental afflictions. Even we have all this, but if we have so much mental affliction, afflictive emotions, then we won't be able to follow. For example, if you have strong greed or attachment to some things, then this covetousness will arise all the time. When you see nice things, oh, I want that, I want that. How can I get this? How can I acquire that? And then if you have this angry mind, then the verbal, it can even happen, the killing can even happen. And then the harsh speech. Normally, harsh speech is all the time propelled by anger, isn't it? When we get angry, then we will say nasty things. So here apply specific antidotes to the corresponding afflictions. So if you think that you have anger issue, then apply antidote to anger. If you feel that your weakness is in attachment or greed or desire, then you should apply the corresponding antidote. So these are four ways to a successful practice of ethical discipline. So now the patience. Gewe longjun dobe kese la nöje tamje rinjin ter tang song. Tejir gun la shende meba yi soba komba kese la lin. To Bodhisattvas who want a wealth of virtue, those who home are like a precious treasure. if for real Bodhisattvas, so all these harms. So here harm can be a person or can be what you call adverse situations. So all this to them is like treasure, is finding a treasure, because they can utilize this towards propelling their, or towards uh, uh, they can utilize these opportunities to what is the word now? To practice, to increase, is it? To better their practice. They can use to their own benefit. I mean, when I say own benefit, it means in their practice. So for them, it's like, oh, this is such a great opportunity. Even a person who is so irritating, so disgusting, so annoying, to the Bodhisattvas, such a great opportunity to practice patience. So that's why even in today's world, we hear of stories of great practitioners, great lamas, who have people around them are so annoying, and sometimes we wonder, why is my teacher putting up with this guy, this person? He is so irritating. So for us, we wanted that person to be kind of expelled, kind of fired from the inner circle. We feel that he is causing too much annoyance to our guru or teacher. But to those teachers, it's like they have found the precious jewel, because such people provides them ample opportunity to enhance their practice of patience. Where else can we practice patience if not our enemy or those people whom irritate us? So it says, therefore, towards all, cultivate patience without hostility. Bodhisattvas view those person as their teacher, because they are the ones who provides them the opportunity to practice patience. So instead of seeing them as hostile and enemy, they see them as their teacher. So if we want to follow in the Bodhisattva's steps, we should also try to do this. But first, we should, let me rephrase, we should start our practice of patience within our family members, in our family, with our partners, with our children, with our family members. Normally, when we talk about practicing patience, we always kind of think that, oh, the patience is something we can practice with strangers, to practice with somebody outside our family. That's not the case. And I have known people who are so nice and so tolerant to other people, but so short-tempered with his or her own family members. That's not right. So I don't know whether you are like that or not. So if you are so, it's time to put a stop. And from today onwards, try practicing patience with your family members, with your wife, with your husband, with your children. Especially children can be very annoying. And also with your grandparents, with your parents, old parents. Old parents, because of their age, sometimes, yeah, they have difficulty hearing, they have difficulty understanding, and everything is slower. And people find that very annoying, and it triggers anger. So if you have any elderly people living in your home, this is the time to practice patience. So one way, remember we have covered this before, so I don't want to go into much detail. And also we will be covering the patience chapter after we finish this text. So I won't go into much detail. But the best way is put yourself in other person's shoe, especially when it comes to elderly people. You have to understand. Remember we talked about being generous in understanding other person, generous in understanding other situation. When you are in that age, everything is very slow. If you were in their shoes, how would you feel if you were treated that way? If you don't get the patience? Sometimes we forget. When we were young, our parents were so patient with us. But now that they are old, it's like we are so agitated that it takes too long for them to do things and also to understand. So try to put yourself in the other person's shoe and then think from their situation. What are going on with them? If we are able to do that, then maybe it can reduce our irritation. We can become more tolerant, more understanding. And when it comes to our enemy or people whom we have difficulty with, then think about this one, try to generate compassion. Remember, we have covered this. Kanzi nyomo wangyurbe tadu nyi jang sue chena. Teze teda shenlu la nume cheba chedar gyurus. So those who are harming us, who are saying nasty things to us, or hurling insult at us, they are kind of, controlled by their anger. The affliction is so strong that some people kill themselves. So who does not treasure themselves? Who does not love themselves? But yet they are willing to even end their own life. So if they are willing to harm their own body, which they have so much love and attachment, then what more do we need to say about them harming us? So that's why in the Junjuk it says that instead of getting angry at them, we should feel compassion towards them. We should feel sorry for them. And we say that, we use that excuse, isn't it? When we have to apologize for something that we said out of anger, we regret that, and later we will approach that person, and what do we say? We apologize, but we always justify. What is the justifying point? Is that I was under the influence of anger. I wasn't myself. So then at least give that credit, give that justification when it comes to other person. Isn't it? So therefore towards all cultivate patience without hostility. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. That's what Bodhisattvas should do. That's what we who are pursuing the path of Bodhisattva should do. So the best way to really reduce anger and hatred is by reflecting or contemplating on the disadvantages of anger. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. How many of you have gone through this experience that you were so angry at this person, and then you are plotting and thinking of getting even with that person, which eventually destroyed your sleep? You were so engrossed in that plotting, reminiscing that incident, that you lost your sleep or you couldn't sleep. Have you had any of this, any such experience? So this is what it is saying. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and then expecting the other person to die. You are so boiled with anger and hatred here, and you cannot even sleep. And those people who have high BP is another additional problem. It elevates your high BP. And on the other side, that person is sleeping so soundly. Nothing is happening there. That person doesn't even know that we have that grudge. So it's like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. So it is so, what is the word now? Pernicious. No, not the word. It's so corrosive that it will eat within us. And then, of course, it clouds our judgment. We lose self-control. How many times we have said or done things that we regretted so much, and how many times we engage in actions that we felt so embarrassed. All this because of a moment, what you call, in the moment of anger. How many relationships were destroyed by an instant of anger? Anger can do or cause irreparable damage. So that's how we think. If we think of the, what you call, the flaws or the downsides of the anger, then we will come to the realization or the conviction that, oh, Anger is not good. I must try to, reduce that. And on the other hand, patience have so much benefits, especially when we claim to be uh, 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 cultivating or generating bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, when we say we want to benefit sentient beings, it includes everybody. We don't say that except, I will benefit all sentient beings except my enemy. We don't say that. All sentient beings. And then in the process of helping sentient beings, if we fail to have this patience, then we will soon give up, because sentient beings are great in numbers. As with the numbers, their inclination, their personality all varies. So you may encounter an irritating person, and if you lose your cool, how are you going to benefit that sentient being, to help that sentient being? So patience is like indispensable for our own purpose and also for the purpose of benefiting others. So that's way to contemplate on the disadvantages and disadvantages of anger or hatred and the advantages of patience. So anger, out of those afflictive emotions, is considered the worst of all, because anger itself has its own consequences. Being a negative or being a non-virtue, it has detrimental effect. But not only that, it destroys the other merits that you have accumulated before. Remember, for like other afflictions, such as attachment, jealousy, they themselves are non-virtue. Because of that, there are negative consequences. But no matter how great the consequences are, it can never destroy the virtue you have done elsewhere in the past. But anger, remember, anger can destroy a merit. An instant, a moment of anger can destroy the merit that we have cultivated for eons. Imagine that. So anger is unlike other negative afflictions. It is very, very, detrimental. So there are three types: the patience of disregarding harm done to you. So this is when you have grudge against another person. So it's like neglecting that through all this reason. So we will cover that in detail in our next chapter, next text. Then the patience of accepting suffering. So we covered that the early parts of this 37 practice of Bodhisattva is all about accepting suffering. So there's a developing a particular mental attitude. Remember, we say kenyin kewe shinyins. All this adverse situation, it is about taking adverse situation into the path. So treating adverse situation as one's spiritual mentor. Because of these situations, we are reminded to do virtue, because suffering is a result of non-virtue. Since we don't like to experience suffering, so we need to cultivate the virtue, and cultivate the causes of happiness, which is virtue, and to discard the causes that give rise to suffering. So in that sense, it is our spiritual teacher. It's like spiritual teacher. And then parje kejur kumains. So like all these obstacles, unfortunate incidents, these are also like a call, exhortation to us to practice Dharma. And then when we actually experience suffering, it is like a broom that sweeps away all our past negative karma. Remember, I mentioned before, there are two ways to exhaust negative karma. One is through purification, engaging in the practice of purification. Then the other one is by experiencing the result. So when we experience, that means we are now exhausting that particular karma. So if we are able to adopt that kind of attitude, even though we are undergoing this suffering and pain and all the challenges, but it won't be too heavy. Like physically we may be feeling that pain, but mentally we are not anguished or sad, or we are not tormented. We are at ease. Then the patience of certitude about the teachings. So this is about generating the four variants of convictions. So when we want to practice anything, any part of the teachings, we need to be certain of the things. If we have a bit of hesitation, then yeah, our level of forbearance will kind of decline or diminish. But when we are certain, when we have this certainty and conviction that this is it, then yeah, we will be willing to put up with any challenges. Then we will really pursue the practice. So that's why it says the patience of certitude about the teachings. So in Lamrim, there are 8 objects. So it's like the object of refuge, the object of 3 jewel. So first we need to really develop this trust in the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So first we need to really develop, as I mentioned earlier, develop this trust in Buddha. Only then we will be able to follow the teachings, follow the instructions without without the slightest hesitation. It says the way to have conviction is to become certain about these objects just as they are, and then to think about them again and again, apprehending them without conflict. So whatever teachings, so sometimes the teaching about the the selflessness of person, the selflessness of phenomena, and is basically the concept of emptiness. So all this we need to develop that conviction, that certainty that this is it. So in order to do that, we need to study, we need to hear, we need to listen, we need to study, we need to read, and then we need to contemplate on that whatever we have read or heard. If we just leave it at that, then a few days later, it's all gone. But if we spend time contemplating on that, then we will be able to develop some degree of conviction. And with that, then we engage in actual meditation. That's how we should go about. So in summary, when it comes to patience, having found its fuel of mental unhappiness, I have this interpreted. Mindu chedan doba yi gekje bali chungjuba yimi tewe senyene shedan tete ta jomso. Oops, I have already. Anyway, the time is up. So I think I'll just read this and you understand. Having found its fuel of mental unhappiness in the prevention of what I wish for and in the doing of what I do not want, hatred increases and then destroys me. It's basically we should fueling our anger or hatred. Having found its fuel of mental in the prevention of what I wish. Okay, therefore I should totally eradicate the fuel of this enemy, for this enemy has no other function than that of causing me harm. So anger has no other job except to harm us. So think that. Okay, we will stop here. Thank you. Let's dedicate the merits we have accumulated. Tage jenye zawe gyawa de tenda dowa kunla kangpen da kebara chizun losan takba ye tembe nyingbu ringdu seche sho jambe bawe chedara kyamba dang gundu Zangpo denya dejen do teda kunge jesu talo che gyawa deda tamche rabdu ngo tezon shekwe gyawa tamche Ngowa kanla shodo ngaba de tagi kewe tsawa diwen Zangpo chuje rabdu ngowarar ki. Thank you.